Howdy, Hannah.
Howdy, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Okay.
How was work?
Okay. It wasn't too bad. It was it was a day.
Jay,
Yes.
you're so cute. Well, we have a couple people on here right now. We have Alicia on here. We
Okay.
have Linda on here. I have no idea how many other people are gonna attend, but we're just gonna chat away, and this will just be streaming live to Facebook. And then
Okay.
whoever wants to go in and watch it later, then they shall. I may even
Okay.
upload it to my YouTube page because I finally got a YouTube page up and running.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So I might upload it to my new YouTube page.
Mm-hmm.
If you're okay with that.
Yeah,
And
that's fine.
I think that would be a lot of fun. Um,
Yeah.
so what do we want to chat about tonight? I mean, of course, we're going to talk about negative energies and entities, but
Mm-hmm.
how about if you want, you can start sharing some of your stories. I can jump in and share some of my stories. And let's introduce
Okay.
R and why you're here.
Okay. I am Hannah, and I'm gonna kind of step outside so my dogs aren't barking.
It's okay.
Um, and so I've kind of done like ghost hunting, or if you like into the paranormal, I want to say probably almost 10, 12 years. And it was kind of just, I found a group on Facebook in Butte one year, um, and just decided I was kind of curious about it and wasn't really like a firm super believer. And then I started seeing things that you can't explain. And so I kind of stuck with it and kind of learned to um, have my abilities and like talk to the spirits and stuff. And then I met Stephanie, what, probably
Mm.
how many years ago?
It's had to have been
Forever
like,
ago.
I want to say like 4 or 5 years ago,
Yeah.
or maybe even
Um,
longer. Actually, I think it was longer because when I first started my journey, we had the holistic wellness circle. You remember that?
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's
And
where we
that's,
met, wasn't it?
it
And
was. And then
that was that was so long ago.
it
Oh,
was.
it's probably been long. It had to be 6 years then, 6 or 7.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah. Super long ago. Wow.
Uh-huh. Mm.
um, yeah. So that's kind of my story.
Perfect.
Nothing like super exciting, but I enjoy
Oh,
it.
it's exciting. I mean, I think people are going to love your perspective because you're coming from kind of that paranormal exploration background. And then
hmm
for me, I'm going to share my stories as the psychic medium. So I think it's going to be
hmm
a lot of fun. I really do.
Yes. Yes,
So
definitely.
let's share some stories. So we here in Butte, Montana, we have a local brothel called the Dumas Brothel. And of
hmm
course there's other ones too, and I'm sure Hannah can bring those up. But Hannah, let's talk a little bit about the Dumas Brothel and the things that we've experienced. Let's just start there.
So my experience with that place is I mean, it is very, very haunted. Um, there's a wide range of spirits from like I've met little kids there. Um, like women of the night, which they used to call them.
Yes.
And then there's something, we're gonna say something because I think it's demonic. It is demonic.
It is demonic.
That's
Yeah.
there. And I've encountered that quite a few times that I've gone and done an investigation there. And it's one of those demonic energies that will feed off of the other spirits that are there, and it's very controlling if you're not aware of what it is.
Right.
Yeah. The
I think I
encounters
know
I've
which
had
one
with,
you're talking about. Yeah. Is that the one?
yeah,
Is that the
he's the
one
one that,
in the basement or
yeah. And so he passes through the portals that are opened in that, at the Dumas. Um, it's now the last time I went, it was he's actually been able to, or it, whatever you want to call it, has actually been able to now migrate and not just stay in the basement. So
Yes.
it's anywhere. It's a 3-story building. If you've never been in the Dumas, it's a 3-story building. So it has a basement, your main level, and then the top floor.
And then
Um,
just for a little history background, if I'm right, like
mhm.
the lower class was in the basement, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
then the middle class was that like in the middle floor, and then the upper class in the upper floor. Is that kind of how
Hmm.
that worked, right?
Yes,
And
yeah.
again,
And
it's
then the
everybody, it's a brothel.
maiden, yeah, like the maiden, the head of the house, her room was on the top floor also, so she could overlook to see who was coming in.
Right. Right.
Um, so
And I think I know which entity you're talking about, because one night we were on the middle floor and I
mhm.
was going to use the restroom. And I'm not gonna lie, you walk down the hallway and you do feel like you're being watched. It's just
Yeah,
I'd never
it is
had that feeling
crazy.
before, except for in that building. And I remember doing this whole thing, like
Yeah, you take a
feeling
second
like
look
I was
because
being
you're like,
watched.
yeah, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's insane. And
Mhm.
I think he's more powerful down in the basement because I know that's where the main portal is.
Oh yeah, and we were talking about
Um,
that room the other day because that room
mhm,
has a ton of mirrors, and that was the room my guides were like, no, you pass. You're not going
mhm,
in there."
mhm. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
So
yeah.
I think so one day I can't remember if you were part of this one or not. I don't think you were, but I had a friend of mine in from Texas and she was doing paranormal investigation and
Mhm.
we're it was the day I was walking down the hallway by myself. I decided after that point I was not going to the bathroom by myself. Like I was all done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm walking down the hallway. I bravely make it to the bathroom and I use the restroom and I come out because there's that little curtain and I open up the curtain. All of a sudden I see this shadow and it
Mhm.
moves across the wall and goes down. I can't remember, like, I think it said like exit on it or something. It literally,
Yep.
and then all I could see in my mind was like like a, um, kind of like went to a back alleyway or something like that. But I went out,
Mhm.
I'm standing there and my friend comes up the hallway and this is a different friend, part of the same exploration, I do believe. But there she comes up the hallway, and when he goes into this room, I'm sitting there going, "Oh, I bet we're gonna go into that room." So she comes running up the hallway and she's like, "Steph, our next room is over there." And I'm like, "Oh, I'll be darned, that sucker already knew where we were going."
Mhm.
So we went in there and I'm trying to think what the method is. Where they listen to they put the headphones on, they listen to the radio stations.
Oh,
What is that
um,
method? I
I can
can't think of
I
it.
can't think of the name of it
I keep
either. I
wanting to
know
say
what you're
Estes
talking
method
about.
or something like that, but I'm not sure that that's really
Yeah.
right. But what they
No.
do, what a lot of paranormal exploration or paranormal investigators will do, put the headset on and they will listen to like what they call a spirit box, and it flips through all these different radio stations and it picks up certain words. Um,
Mhm.
so, and that's what the entity or ghost or whatever you want to call it uses to communicate. Well, she was sitting on the stairs and she had the headphone, and it was so weird. I felt the energy of the room completely shift, and I actually saw him like he was, I guess for lack of better words, sitting within her, like inside of her. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's like I could feel everything change in her. And even the words that
Mhm.
were coming through were completely like they didn't feel good to me. So
No.
now I'm tapping on her shoulder, like, I don't know if we should be doing this. Like it was
Mhm.
very interesting. And I knew that it was that entity. And I have the intuitive feeling that that's the same entity that you've encountered multiple
Yes.
times. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. No, my freakiest, I guess we'll go with, encounter with that, um, was I did go into that room that has the portal,
You're a brave
and
soul. My guides were like, no, you're not going in there.
I mean, I put up my, like, bubble, everything, like, heavy core, and there was we were doing kinda I think it was just, like, an investigation tour, and the owner was there. There was, quite a few other people, like and, like, there was people sitting on the floor, and there was, 2 of my friends that you also know, they were sitting next to me, they'd be on my left, and my husband was with me also, and he was on my right, and we were sitting so if you go into this room, there's, like, a bed that's up against the wall.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
Mhm,
Yeah.
and so we were sitting on the bed and just listening to the same thing. The owner had on the headphones and listening to the ghost box and repeating words that was coming through.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if you put in perspective, my feet hit the floor. But the bed's really low to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, like we were listening, and I feel like something like claws grab the back of my calf.
Interesting.
And I jumped. I jumped and I looked at the person sitting on the floor at first and I was like, did you just touch me?" And she's like, "No." Like she was terrified because I said, "Did you touch me?" And she was like, "No."
You never
And I
want to
looked
ask that. Did you touch me in a haunted building? That's never a good
right,
question to ask. Yeah.
right. And then I looked at my 2 friends and I'm like, "Did you guys, like, feel that?" They're like, "No, all we did was feel you jump." And then, like, I moved and I could almost feel, like, something, like, go between my legs and just come out from underneath the bed.
Oh
And
man.
it was like yeah, it was so
Oh, so
creepy,
what did
and
you do?
that's
Did you
happened
just like
twice.
jump up and just run? Or were you
No, I
afraid to
didn't,
sit there?
I stayed,
You
and
stayed.
then we yeah, I
You
stayed. I
are
was just
a
like
warrior. I
I
don't
mean,
know that I would have done that back in the
grip?
day.
Did I have a grip on my friend's hand? Abso-freaking-lutely, like, but and then it kind of, like, started getting really bad, and so we got the owner out of the, session and everything and kind of, like, ended it, and that's happened to me twice in that room because 'cause I've gone quite a few times
Is
in
it
that
the
room
one like
in the
all the
same
way? Did you
place.
say all the way at the end of the hall to the right? Is that I think
No, so it's you go straight down the stairs and it would be, I'm trying to picture, like, you go straight down the stairs and it's the first room on the left,
it
maybe
okay,
first or
so it's the
second.
one in with the mirrors that we're talking about.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay. There was
Mhm.
another one like further down on the right-hand side. For some reason, I was seeing that room. So yeah.
That there's somebody in there too, but they're nice. I get a
Yeah, they're
nice
not
vibe
bad.
from them.
I
Mm-mm.
I I don't know. The energy that's in that room, strangely
I don't
enough, it almost felt like how do I explain it? It almost felt like there was this gentleman, but also I felt a
Mhm.
energy in there and almost felt like a very romantic type of a
Yeah.
well, does that make sense?
Yes, it does. If
Hmm.
I if I if I can if I know that if I can I'm picturing the room you're talking about,
Yeah.
and there are 2, spirits in there.
Yeah.
Um,
But that one's pretty easy. It's probably the easiest. I'm not gonna say this though. Yeah, I feel like it's probably the easiest room for people who want to go exploring. It's the easiest room to be
mhm,
in my opinion. But
mhm,
I'm not gonna lie. I loved it the first time I went down into the basement because it had been such a long time. I think it had been since I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I was at the Dumas, right? And my experience at the Dumas at the time when I was in high school was interesting because I got dizzy and almost fell down the stairs and I grabbed some biker dude and I thought he was gonna like pummel me. He didn't. He was very patient with me, but I never went back in it after that.
Mm-hmm.
But then when my friend from Texas came and she was like, "We're gonna do the Dumas. Are you coming with us? You got to be my medium on this." And I was like, you know me. I don't like paranormal like, investigations. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
really jive with me because I'm like, they're not. I can see them like literally avoiding the technology. So it's like
Yeah.
sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. But I was like, sure, I'll do it. Just I think it'll be fun. But I went down the basement for the first time and I didn't remember what was in the basement, but I could smell the booze. I could like hear the clinking of
And the
glasses
perfume.
and the
Yeah.
perfume. And I was like, and I could feel the warmth of bodies all around me. Like there's just all these people. And I said, and my guide was like, it's a speakeasy. And I went, and so I had to ask because I'm like, I didn't even know there was a speakeasy in Butte. So my guide was
Mm-hmm.
like, there's a speakeasy here. And I went, no way. So I asked the gal, and it was your friend. I asked her, like, I was like, is there a speakeasy here? She says, yeah, there was a speakeasy here. So I don't
Hmm.
know. I was totally fascinated with the speakeasy because I mean, I don't know, the energy that came from the speakeasy. I know everybody goes down there and completely freaks out, but I think part of it's because that entity that's in the basement. But
Mm-hmm.
I love the energy that's in the speakeasy area. I love
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
definitely.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it's crazy and like um that entity or he's something else. Like I've he's tried to even like get like uh what was it when we were doing kind of like that, so they have like that Connect and Xbox type thing that they hook up with an iPad. And
Oh, Linda
so
says there's actually no speakeasy on Park Street.
yeah,
Huh. I did not know that.
yeah.
I'm sorry. Go
Oh
ahead.
goodness. No, you're fine. No, you're fine. If people have questions, stop me. Tell me to
Yeah,
be
absolutely.
quiet.
I've just been trying to keep an eye on the feed. So if you have a questions or if you have a story to share, share it with us. We would love to share the
Mm-hmm.
stories. So put those on here.
Yes, definitely do. And so I was standing in the hallway of the Dumas, and my friend was with me. And I'm not normally one to like get like nauseous or anything with them, like with spirits or anything around.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I was having like an off day or if it was just really strong that night. So it actually tried to attach itself to me. Like I could feel it trying to get in.
Hmm.
And
Interesting.
I grabbed my friend's hand and because she was standing next to me and I don't normally do that. And she kind of like all I remember is she like looked at me and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I couldn't get any words out. All I could do was squeeze her hand. And so she knew. So she's like, "Yeah, we're gonna go. Like, we're gonna leave." So she pulls me out of that and we get like, she took me outside and she's like, "Are you okay? Like, what is wrong?" And I was like, it was just like attaching, like I couldn't pull away. And she's like, "You are so white right now. Like, you are a white person, Hannah," is what her words were. And she's like, "You are white. You are like the color of a sheet."
Uh-huh.
And, so that was another encounter I had with that. It's touched me twice at the Dumas, and then because it floats back and forth from the Cabbage Patch and the Myra.
Yeah.
Which the Myra is also was once also a brothel. And then the Cabbage Patch is like where old miners used to live that were very poor.
Right.
So, and
Right.
it's touched me there before too. And I was with a high school like tour group when
Yeah.
that happened.
Yeah.
So,
It's
but
so
yeah.
interesting. I don't think it ever, well, I take that back. There was one day when I was walking down the hallway again by myself,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember just again getting that feeling of being watched. And I remember doing the whole like looking around. And when I turned back around, I saw this um giant shadow, like, and he
Mm-hmm.
looked and appeared tall to me. And I think part of the reason he was trying to appear tall was because he was trying to intimidate me and
Yeah.
scare me. And at that time I was starting to flip things around, and I was really starting to understand why we had negative energies and entities. So it was interesting though, because what he did was, and it looked like he had claws, and he was
Mm-hmm.
tapping on the outside of my aura. And I realized while he's tapping on the outside of my aura, what he's doing is looking for like a vulnerability, a spot where he can
Yeah.
sneak in. And so, like on the 28th, so February 28th, that's when I'm going to talk about why we have hauntings. And we're going to discuss why that is. Why is he looking for that vulnerability? So, but
Mm-hmm.
that's what he's doing. And it was so fascinating to me, but I think I might have frustrated him because I remember just looking at him and being so fascinated by the fact that he was just tapping on my bubble. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, you're not going to find a hole. You're just not.
Mm-mm.
And so that was really interesting. Now, in after of course this experience, I went further down the hallway, and I was in, I think it was a room off to the left, but it had those big doors in it. I don't know if you remember what room I'm talking about.
Room
But
number
they
7.
keep them closed because I think there's a
Yeah.
storage or something behind it. But it was like the door was cracked like maybe this much, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting there and I was just kind of feeling for what I could feel. And I actually saw, it was very interesting. I saw an incubus and a succubus in that room, which was
Interesting.
fascinating. And of course, here I am going, that is so interesting.
That is really interesting.
Yeah, it was very fascinating. So I mean, I even asked my guide some questions like, have these guys been here the whole time? And my guide was like, yes, they've been here the whole time. And they are kind of starved because they're not getting what they need. That makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. So, yeah, those are some interesting experiences from the Dumas brothel.
Yes.
I didn't get a chance really to go through a lot of the Myra. I think you and I actually went through the Myra building at one point.
Yeah, because we
Um,
went and tried to clear it out.
yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
we went into the Cabbage Patch a little.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I haven't had like, I mean, I've had experiences in those two areas, but nothing
Mm-hmm.
that really rocked me to the core.
No.
Nothing.
No,
Um,
I mean, I've only ever gotten like other than that entity when he travels, um, I've only ever really encountered like friendly spirits in the Myra and the Cabbage Patch.
yeah, me as well. I mean, I could see where there were some people, they must have been sitting outside the fence, trying to access spirit with a Ouija board. Like I kept seeing that
Mm-hmm.
image over and over. And your friend had actually
Mm-hmm.
confirmed to me that there were people
Oh,
actually trying to do that. And I was like, why?
yes,
So there were
multiple
some
times.
portals open over by the Cabbage Patch, which was really fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
let's unless you do you have any more stories to share about the brothel?
No, those are
Okay.
really the only like stories that really stick out that are.
How about we slide into some of the, I mean, because I think if I remember right, you told me you had experienced some dreams as well that were um kind of hit you to the core. Is that right?
Yeah, So it was kind of when I first started like opening up to like more into the spirit world and stuff. And granted, I don't know if they were dreams or if they like really truly happened, but it was um I had come back from an investigation and I was getting ready for bed and I went to lay down and I was like in that stage where I was like half awake but like
Half
half
asleep.
asleep too. And so I was laying in my bed and I felt like this, like somebody went like brushed my face and I could feel somebody sit on my bed.
Yeah.
Um yeah, that
That
was really
that can be
crazy.
intense.
I had a bed, like a nightstand and a light next to my bed. I flicked that on so quickly. It was like, who is in my
It's
room? Like,
probably have holy water underneath the mattress, like
I do
back.
sometimes. Yeah. Yep. And then I did, and that was actually probably like the first time um that I was like, it was probably after like the first holistic meeting that I went to
Uh-huh.
that it kind of happened. And I knew you guys had always said, if that happens, like open up, a white light and, tell them that it's okay to pass through and stuff. And I did that and it left. Um, don't know what it was to this day. Um, and another one, and I think I've told you about this, it was when I first started opening up my abilities, is dogs jumped on my bed, but I didn't have animals at that time.
I think you did tell me about that one.
And I was like, yeah. And it was like, I literally just remember like, it just felt like tons of dogs just jumping on my bed and jumping off.
Yeah.
And then I heard like one like bark, but it's like, and I'm like thinking that, and I remember I told you, I think I did tell you that one, and it was like, I didn't have any animals. So I couldn't figure that one out. And I think you told me that you might have the ability, like the animals were coming because they felt that you were a white
Animal.
light and could
Mhm.
help them pass to the rainbow bridge. Or
Yeah. Yeah.
those are not like the only ones that I truly like felt presence with.
Gosh, I'm trying to think. I've had a few of them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think the first experience that really scared me. I mean, it was intense, but I did a fair and there was a woman that actually came to me and said that she felt like she was haunted. And I remember kind of looking into her space and she had stuff in there that I had never seen before. Like things that things that I don't think any human should ever see.
Mm-hmm.
So I I remember when she left me, I was pretty much at the end of the day. And myself and my friends, we were all going to go to dinner. So we went to dinner. But when I got home, I felt so tired. And when I went to bed, I had a dream that night. It was interesting because I had a dream that my husband sat in front of me and he looked at me and he said, well, I lost my job. And I just remember looking at him saying, well, that's okay. We'll figure it out. And it was weird though, because when I was looking in his eyes, I was like, "Mm, you aren't my husband." It almost
Mm-hmm.
felt like it was trying to trigger me. Does that make sense? So
Mm-hmm.
I looked at it and I said, you are not my husband. And all of a sudden, this thing, like all of the hair fell off and the teeth went wild. And
Oh
then I
my
was like
God.
transported to this weird cabin and everything felt so real to me. Like I could feel the wood on the cabin floor. I could feel the wood on the side of the cabin. The cabin
Mm-hmm.
had, I could see like a window and there was a full moon out. And I could see that there was the window was broken. So we were in like this kind of like dilapidated cabin and
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, all I could see was in the moonlight, I could see him rushing at me. And he was like this tall, lanky kind of character with like gray skin. And he looked kind of like, if you've ever seen Lord of the Rings, Gollum, but he was taller.
Mm-hmm.
And he started rushing at me. And all of a sudden, I felt his hand come around my neck. And I mean, his hand, like his fingers were so long, it like just wrapped
Oh.
around. And now I'm kind of freaking out, like, because I could feel his skin. And that just, I was done. I was
Mm-hmm.
done. I knew this was a psychic dream. And so, I remember my guide kind of stepping in and he said, Steph, just send him to the light, send him to the light, send him up into your higher powers light. So that's what I did. And all of a sudden I
Mm-hmm.
just saw him be sucked up and right up into the light. But I woke up and went, oh my God. Like that one was just, that was wild. And I realized it was from the woman because I sat on the side of my bed and I was like, where did that come from? And my guide was
Mm-hmm.
like, you carried it home from the woman that you cleared earlier. Like you cleared it off her.
Oh.
And for some reason, it just clung to me and I had brought it home with me.
Oh my
And
God,
that
no.
one was intense. The second experience I ever had was so it was like in a dream, I was like a 14-year-old boy. It's very interesting. And
Okay.
I realized that my mother and I lived together, and that was it. It was just me and my mother. There was no
Mm-hmm.
father, no siblings. I was like a 13-year-old boy, maybe 14, I don't know, but it feels like 13. And we moved into this house, new house,
Mm-hmm.
and it was interesting because the cupboards would open by themselves, things would move by themselves, and my mother and I realized that the house was haunted. And so my mother tells me in the dream, she says, I have to go out tonight. So you're going to be by yourself tonight. And I remember thinking to myself, you know what? I'm just going to grab a bowl of popcorn. I'm going to watch a movie, not a scary one. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
watch a movie and I'm just going to ignore whatever happens behind me. I'm not even going to deal with it. That was my thing
Yeah.
in the dream. And so I sat down, I started eating my popcorn. And all of a sudden, there was like the kitchen was behind me. It wasn't a huge house. The kitchen was behind me. There was like a
Mm-hmm.
little living room. And then if you're looking at the kitchen off to the right, there was a door, but there was a wall. And then you go around that wall there, and there's a door that goes to the outside into the backyard. All of a sudden, this door slams open. I can hear leaves rattling on the floor. There's wind blowing outside, blowing all the leaves into the house. So I went over to close the door because I thought, oh no, I am not buying into this, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
went to close the door and I look out and it looks like there's someone outside in the yard. Well, not in the yard, but they're coming around to the gate to come into the yard. So I go out to try to stop whoever it is from coming into
Mm-hmm.
the yard. And it's a woman. And she comes closer to me. And she looks like this Asian woman. And she comes up to me and she literally, what was really strange about this energy was the eyes were golden. And I remember just trying to figure out, like, I'd never seen an entity like this before. So
Right.
she literally, I mean, she was tricky. She put her hands out to introduce herself. Now, I can't remember what she told me her name was, but
Mm-hmm.
she did. I felt her hand. It felt warm. It felt human. But I remember my guide stepping in saying, Stephanie, that's not human. It's not a human energy. And I was like, then what is it? So I looked at it, and it was the strangest experience I'd ever had with an entity because I looked at it dead in the eyes and I said, you are not human. And all it did was smile at me and kind of cock its head. That's it. It didn't
Oh,
like
it
freak
didn't
out
say
on me like
anything?
some of them do. No, it was so fascinating, but so scary at the same time. So
Yeah.
I remember looking at her and I said, you have to leave, and I command you to leave. Because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what she was. I had no idea, and I wasn't about to stick around. So when I woke up that morning, I remember sitting on the side of the bed going, because I always like to ask my guides, like, where did I pick that one up at? Why did that one come, you know? So he told me, my guide said that had nothing to do with you. And I was like, well, what does it have to do with then? And he said, it's got to do with a friend. So I was going to talk to a friend that day, at like 3 o'clock or something like that. We were going to just chat because I hadn't talked
Mm-hmm.
to her for a while. And there was some other stuff we were going to chat about too. But um, so I text her that day. But before we even had a talk, and I said, you know, I had this dream, and I explained the whole dream to her, and I said, my guides are telling me this has something to do with you. She actually, as I thought, no, that can't be the case. Like, so she
Mm-hmm.
texted me back and she said, oh yeah, I've had lots of stuff going on. Lots of stuff. Like she's had weird stuff happening in her house. Basically, what was happening in the dream was happening to her. Like there were
Oh
weird
my
things happening with
God.
cupboards. It was tormenting her son. I had no idea. So when we started chatting that day, we talked about it because she was into paranormal stuff too. And
Mm-hmm.
um, when I Googled it, because I was like, my guide said just Google beings with golden eyes. And honestly, it came up with like something called a kitsune, if you've ever heard of it. And
Mm-mm.
it can sway either way. It can be good or it can be a trickster, is from my understanding. And also, I think in like,
Interesting.
if I remember right, what it said in like the 1600s, like 1655, they actually dubbed the kitsune. It's like a Japanese belief. But the
Okay.
kitsune actually, they dubbed it the goblin. So I was like, oh my God,
Interesting.
now I'm getting visitors from like, like all these like unreal belief systems. Like
Yeah, that's
it
crazy.
was wild. So when her and I talked, we figured out how to get it out of her house.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. She said she was also seeing, I think if I remember right, what she said she was seeing like a, I want to say she said she saw like an Asian woman in her house. It was very
Oh my
fascinating.
gosh,
And
that's crazy.
that dream was just, I mean, I couldn't stop thinking about it because I kept thinking, so now we've got like myths coming up. And I
Mm-hmm.
guess another one, a good segue in is one time I had a friend call me and she said, Steph, I'm getting bruised at night. And she showed me the bruises, like they were on her thighs. And one of them looked like a handprint. And she's single. She
Oh
wasn't
my
married.
God.
Yeah. And so I went into her space and I could see like I remember this big blue being behind her. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sitting there and I asked my guide, I'm like, what the hell is that thing? And he looked at me and he said, it's a genie. And he said, but
What?
it's not like your normal genie. It's so now here I am. This is what I do. I Google shit all the time.
Right?
And oh my Google just went off. But anyway, um I Googled it and Genie is actually like um mm, we have this nice version. Like when we're looking at the Disney version, we have this nice version, but there's a version called the Jinn, right? And
Okay.
the
I've
way
heard of
they
them.
explained it, it is exactly what was happening to her. Everything. And I realized that I had to, so this was another strange experience, but this one happened to me while I was in meditation. So I was able to release this energy and she wasn't getting bruises anymore or anything like that. But the day after that, the day after I helped her, I went into meditation and it was the strangest thing. Um, I literally was surrounded by like thousands of these different beings, these genies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I kept thinking, what am I gonna do here? And my guide was like, send them to the light. Just send them up into your higher power's light. So I did that. Oh, I just noticed Amy put, I've experienced the bruises and handprint in my thighs too. It was so crazy for a couple weeks it went on. I felt like I was going to war in my sleep. Yeah, it could. I'm not saying that it is a genie, but it could be. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they express it as a gin, but I don't want you to be too afraid. That, like I said, on the 28th, we're going to talk about standing in your power with that stuff so that you
Yes.
don't feel like your power is being completely taken away, Amy. And I think I only put it at like $30 because I wanted it to be affordable for people because I'm going to teach you how to stand in your power in that class. But it was interesting. So I did that and it was just gone. But I remember sitting there
Wow.
thinking, oh my God. I must have really ticked somebody off with all of the
Mm-hmm.
genies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow, that's crazy.
it was wild. I mean, and I've had other experiences like with I guess if we want to call them demons. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I had a guy, he called me because he felt that there was something in his house. And um I remember when I went into his house, I went into his basement. And now, granted, I've seen this guy like 4 times. And I realized there's a whole big story behind this, but let me just tell the story first. So
Mm-hmm.
this fourth time of going to his house, um, I went downstairs and the fourth time there was actually a portal open in their house. And my guide kept looking at me. Every time I had been there, my guide kept saying, he is creating this. He is doing this. And I had no idea what the hell he was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, by the fourth time, I realized that the guy was trying to do like paranormal explorations in his own house, but he was opening up, yeah, but he was doing it in a really weird way.
Wow.
Like he was opening up portals, he was doing seances in his basement because my guide
Oh
showed
my
me
God,
everything.
no.
Yeah, so I went upstairs and I said, my guides are telling me that you are kind of creating this because you want a paranormal experience. You want the dishes flying, you want the cupboards opening by themselves, you want a paranormal experience. And I said, they're showing me that you're doing seances in your basement. And the guy actually looked at me and said, yes, I do. I was surprised he admitted it. I
Oh my
really was.
God.
So I literally told him, I was like, if you keep doing this, I mean, I can keep coming back, but it seems like a waste of your money. And so they were moving, and the whole idea
Mm-hmm.
behind this fourth visit was they wanted me to clear off the stuff so that they weren't carrying it over. But I'm like, well, I can clear off the stuff, but if you continue to do this, you're going to carry it over
You're
anyway.
gonna carry it with you. Yeah.
Right. So I did what they wanted me to do, but it was interesting because as I started saging and clearing the house, the there was an entity. So it kept moving and moving. And at one point, when I started in the basement, it came up to me as like a 14-year-old boy. But it was really interesting because he looked like he
Hmm.
was from the 1950s and he wasn't
Mm-hmm.
coming in as color. Like I see energies in color. And I
Mm-hmm.
kept thinking, that is so weird. Why is it not in color? I mean, I even asked my guys, I'm like, why is it not in color? And they said, because that is not a little boy. And I was like, that's not even, they said, it's not a teenager, it's not human. And I said, well,
Mm-hmm.
then what is it? So they started teaching me to see what's under it. So I was able to see what was under it. I was like, oh, you're right. That is not a boy. That is
Mm-hmm.
something entirely different. So I continued. I said, what do I do with this? And they said, continue clearing the house. So I continued to clear the house. And as we got out, he was standing on the sidewalk. So I was moving it out the door. But as we got out the door, that entity attached itself right to him and right on the left-hand side where his heart was. And then all of a sudden I saw it like it was almost like an octopus type of thing, but not. But it
Mm-hmm.
wrapped its hand or its tentacle around his heart. And I asked the guy, I said, so have you felt any pains on the left-hand side or have you felt any pains in your heart area? And he said, yeah, like a couple weeks ago, I thought I was going to have to go to the ER and I thought I was having a heart attack. And I said, you're not having a
Oh
heart
my
attack.
God.
I said, you have an attachment. And at the time, I wasn't sure what to do with it. So my guides
Right.
had to just teach me in the moment, like, what do I do with it? This was early on in my journey. They taught me what to do with the attachment so that I could just
Mm-hmm.
release it. And then I had a stern talking to the guy in a compassionate way that said, you got to stop. You got to stop doing seances. He even had, like, I walked into one room in the basement and he had baby powder all over the floor because he was trying to see ghostly footprints, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Which doesn't work, by the way.
No, it doesn't. No. So,
It really doesn't. So
no,
yeah, it does
it
not
really
work.
doesn't. Don't try it. Nobody try it. It doesn't work. They're only going to let it work if they want it to work. That's the truth of it.
Mm-hmm.
Even with
Yep.
equipment. So, um, that was like my first experience with an attachment. I had no
Mm-hmm.
idea. And especially with the little boy. The little boy that wasn't actually,
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy.
it was crazy.
I've only ever lived in one, well, no, two places that were haunted.
Oh yeah.
One was just kind of like what I got from them. It was an apartment up on Park Street,
Oh yeah.
and it was my first apartment, and they were like two little old ladies, is what now that I go back and kind of picture it. At that time, I was like, okay. But they didn't bother me or anything. They were like, I want to say they were guides, but they weren't, but they were spirits. And they just like protected over the house and watched over the house. They didn't bother me, didn't do anything. You could just feel their like light energy.
Yeah.
Um, and the second apartment I lived, I think it was on Washington Street or
Okay.
maybe Utah. And it was a duplex. So I lived on the bottom floor and then there was somebody up above me. And didn't really notice anything, for a while and was still like kind of new and doing investigations. And like, I remember sitting on my couch one day watching TV and all of a sudden I felt like a burning down my leg.
Oh wow.
And so I looked at my leg and there was like like multiple scratches going down my legs. And I'm like sitting there thinking, I'm like, I haven't done anything, and then went and looked in the mirror and there was like a scratch right here and then one right across my forehead. Um and I had like called a friend that's also I think you've met her a couple times on ghost hunts. Um she's also a psychic medium
Probably.
and in the paranormal stuff. And I had called her and I said, hey, like something's going on, something's weird in my house. And I always felt there was something there, but just was like, didn't pay any attention to it.
Yeah.
And so I called her and I'm like, hey, I feel it there, like something's going on. So she comes over and come to find out it was like a trickster, like spirit type,
Yep.
and trying to get my attention and, trying to freak me out. And there was another spirit that was trying to like protect me and like push them away, but they couldn't get him to go away. And so we did it, like we cleared it out and stuff and then never had any issues. But she said that the trickster spirit was coming from the upstairs people. So it was traveling through my closet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's why I always hate closets. Like, I hate closets.
I used to hate closets when I was a kid too, because honestly, I mean, I never realized really until I started walking this journey that I actually had abilities when I was little. And
Mm-hmm.
there used to always be, it looked like a little gremlin in my closet. My mother
Oh
she
my
never
gosh.
would actually she'd just look at me and say, no, you just had a dream, or,
Mm-hmm.
like, you're just seeing stuff. But I would, and I hated that closet, absolutely hated it. And so I asked my mom one day to just switch rooms because I couldn't handle that room. Actually, it was because this is the house that my mother used to own. So it was in this room that I asked her to switch to because it just felt better to me. Like, I never could explain it, but there was always this little gremlin in my closet. And one night I saw his fingers wrap around the door and slowly start opening the door. I was like, oh no, I pass. I absolutely pass. I
Mm-hmm.
do not collect $200. I will not pass go. I'm done. Like, I got up, I
Yeah.
grabbed my blanket, grabbed my pillow, and I went in the living room because I was like, I'm done. My mom was so mad. She's like, why are you not in your bed? There's a dude in my closet.
Yeah, no, I hate closets.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Even my husband to this day. And I'm not really even afraid of it anymore, but it's almost like a
Mm-hmm.
habit. Like, I just make sure all the doors and the closets are closed.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep, all the time. But I make
all
sure
the
all
time.
my doors, closets, everything are closed.
Uh-huh. And I
I
still
have,
have night lights. I still have night lights. Again, I'm not really even afraid of it
mhm.
anymore, but it's like it's just a habit
It's
that
a
I
habit.
created from when I
Hmm.
was younger. Yeah. Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, we are just about out of time. And
Oh,
so I wanted
okay.
to see, let's see, Caleb Roberts and I would see all kinds of shadows in the closet when I was a kid. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we feel you, Caleb.
Mhm.
We feel you. She says, oh, Amy says she hates closets too.
Yep, closets are the worst.
So I wanted to see if anybody had any questions because we're just about to the end of our show. It is 6:12. So I will just wait and see if anybody has questions. Hannah, did you have anything else you wanted to share?
No, just that Butte has a lot of history and I don't know where everybody's from, but if you ever get the chance to meet it, make sure you do some of those tours. I mean, they're a lot of fun and it's a lot of great history.
It's true. Butte is full of a lot of rich history.
Hmm.
Alicia says I don't like hallways. I don't blame you, especially if they're dark hallways. I'm
Yeah,
done.
right.
So the class, let me just talk about that for a second. So the class is happening on the 28th. It's going to be happening at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. It's going to be what you're going to do. You're going to get a Zoom link so that you can personally sit in the class with me and we can talk about this. We're going to talk about the 5 reasons why we have hauntings. We're also going to talk about the 1 law that gives you your power back. And I'm also going to give you some tips and tricks on how to take your power back. That class is going to be $30. If you want, Amy, I can send you a link to the event too. Let's see. Yes, Alicia's from Australia. It's like morning time for her.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've always wanted
Okay.
to visit there.
Me too. Me too. Amy, I will send you that link to that event because I think it'll be, I don't know. The more that I walked this journey, the more that I realized there's a reason why we have negative energies and entities, and we're going to talk about those. So, and how
Hmm.
to take your power back because it's easier than people think. Alicia, did you have any? I know we were talking about things before Hannah jumped on, but and I know you're typing away if you do this, but did you want to just kind of give us a quick hint about a story? You said that you had an experience while you were in meditation, which that genie was one I had while I was in meditation, which was interesting.
Oh, that's crazy. I thought they were always just mythical creatures, like
I
not.
did too. And I've gotten more visits from these mythical beings that I thought never existed. I thought they were just like
Yeah.
I thought that they were just a story. And
Hmm.
the way that my guides explain it to me, it's literally because we have a belief that they exist in some way, shape, or form.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so Alicia says, yes, I was home alone and felt a negative energy standing behind me. Did you just jump up
Ooh.
and say, "Get out of my bubble"? That's probably what I would have done.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what other mythical. Oh, she said, I asked it to leave. It didn't move. I commanded it to move in the name of God. And I bet it moved then. Yep. I bet it moved
Mhm.
then. That's how I do it too, among other things. I did actually have an experience with, so I see all kinds of interdimensional beings.
Mhm.
And when we're looking at like Alicia says, it still didn't move. I told it I was going to count to 3. Oh, that's funny. You got 3 seconds to get out of my bubble. Kayla says, I had a visit from a 2 to 3 foot being with a physical third eye that was blue, like Krishna. Have you heard or seen of any beings like that? I have actually.
Mm.
I'll send you some information, Kayla. I better write this down.
Right.
Because otherwise I'm gonna be like, oh, this person had this and I can't remember what it was.
Mhm.
Um, I I get the way my guides are explaining it to me, Kayla, is I don't feel that that being is like a negative entity, but I mean, the way they're making it, the way they're giving me the image of what it looks like can seem like it's pretty scary.
Mhm.
But my guides, they are telling me it does have something to do with like Indian history, not Native American. We're talking like India. Okay, so Alicia says, and then I was going to turn around and you better be gone. I counted down, stood up, turned around, opened my eyes, and it went. Good for
Oh
you.
wow.
Look
Good
at
job.
you standing your power. Please, no one has been able to tell me anything. Okay, I'll see what I can dig up because my guides are giving me some information, so I'll see what I can dig up for you. Yes, you do have abilities, Alicia. I love working with you. You have amazing abilities.
Mhm.
You do. Okay, so Kayla, I'm gonna see if I can send you some info on that. And then Amy, I'm gonna send you the event link. Thank you guys for sharing your stories, by the way. I know you had to type them
Yeah,
in.
no, that's awesome.
That's so fun. But if you guys join that event, like I said, it's gonna be on a Zoom and you're gonna be on Zoom with me so we can chat on Zoom live and you won't have to type anything in. You can just say it. So I think
Mhm.
Hannah's gonna be there too. Are you gonna be there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I have it in
Hannah's
my
gonna be there too.
calendars.
So if you guys want to join that event, like I said, it's happening on February 28th at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Alicia's like, all good. I work as a typist. That's good. She could type like 135 words a minute.
Probably I can't, but
Thank you all for joining us. I appreciate you all so much. Again, what I'll do too is maybe when I get done with this Zoom, I will just put the link to that event down at the bottom of the page. Thank you, Hannah, for joining us. I really
yes, no,
appreciate
thank
you.
you.
That was a lot of fun. Thank you
Yeah,
for sharing your experiences. So I will see you
definitely.
all if you want. I will see you all joining that event. You are so welcome, Amy. You're welcome, Alicia. You're welcome, Kayla. Okay. We will see you all at that event. Love you
All
guys.
right, bye.